They believed you would crumble. They anticipated chaos, a storm of emotions, maybe even a desperate scramble to prove your worth. Instead, you stood firm. Your steady presence flipped the entire balance. You didn't just answer, you set the tone. While they clawed for control, you remained composed, observing, calculating. That composure shook them more than any outburst ever could. They wanted noise to feed on. You gave them silence that cut like judgment. That silence reminded them they were facing someone who couldn't be provoked, someone who had already chosen the ending before they even began. That is why unease seeped into their core. It wasn't about what you spoke, it was about what you didn't need to. True control intention says more than endless dialogue. They wanted anger to blind you, but your precision was surgical. You moved as though every scenario had already been mapped. That steadiness revealed danger because real danger is quiet. It is intentional. People forget fear doesn't come from sound. Fear comes from realizing the plan was flawed, the assumptions wrong, and the opponent unshakable. When you carried the moment with balance, they understood another attempt would expose their own fragility. They withdrew not from peace, but because your power forced them to confront their limits. In relationships, conflict reveals control. Most spiral into shouting matches, draining both sides into exhaustion. You didn't. You cut the spiral before it began. You spoke only when necessary, refusing to let emotion drag you into chaos. That restraint was your sharpest weapon. They anticipated pleading or defensiveness. Instead, you gave presence, measured clarity, and choices beyond reversal. That terrified them because anyone who stays calm under fire cannot be controlled. Emotional balance becomes emotional dominance. And when you demonstrated that dominance, they realized pushing you would wreck them, not you. The same law governs ambition. Where others cracked under pressure, you endured deadlines without showing strain. Where politics sought to trap you, flowed around it. That rattles those who thrive on disorder. They need panic to gain advantage. You refused them that luxury. You proved that storms can rage and you will not bend. That stillness forces hesitation in every challenger. They know storms don't break you, they forge you. That truth alone shields you because no one wants war with someone who cannot be moved. Psychology reveals why. Your composure sparked fear. People depend on predictable reactions. They assumed you would mirror them. Emotional, rash, unstable. Instead, your calm rewrote the script. Predictability brings comfort. Unpredictability brings dread. When you displayed composure instead of rage. And that single act shattered their assumptions. That unpredictability forced hesitation into their steps. And hesitation always plants the roots of fear. They realized the script no longer belonged to them. It belonged to you. Once control shifted, so did the entire balance of power. Strength in critical moments isn't about shouting or force. It is about perception. You saw beneath the words. You read the motives. You ignored the bait meant to spark reaction. That choice stripped them of fuel. They couldn't twist your calm. They couldn't feed on your fire. They couldn't reshape your presence. You showed that no matter their tactic, you had already accounted for it. That steadiness transformed respect into caution. They will hesitate before striking again, because they now know you aren't just strong, you're untouchable. In love, this unnerves those who rely on chaos. They cannot manipulate someone who refuses to play. They cannot provoke someone who refuses to answer. You stepped out of their story and began writing your own. That terrified them because their control evaporated the moment you chose peace over chaos. Your steadiness revealed how much they depended on your weakness to disguise their own. Without your collapse, their illusion of strength collapsed. That collapse is why they tread carefully now. Your composure did not erase the gravity of the moment. It magnified it, because instead of flinching, you forced them to bear the full weight of their actions. That is what burned them most. They couldn't run from their reflection. You made them face it with no noise to distract them. They wanted to drag you into flames so they wouldn't have to choke on their own smoke. But your stillness placed the mirror back into their hands, and mirrors frighten more than enemies, because mirrors never lie. Every test they sent your way was meant to expose weakness. Instead, it revealed iron. They thought stress would break you, but it only displayed how prepared you truly were. That readiness terrifies anyone who thought they had control. Now they know every attempt to rattle you will only carve your name deeper. They whisper carefully because they understand another challenge would end worse for them than for you. Proved your strength isn't a reaction. It's the foundation you stand on. Their backhanded compliments were designed designed to drag you into endless loops to defend, to explain, to waste yourself. They never state things plain, because clarity can't ensnare you, so they lace their words with sugar over venom. They'll say you're surprisingly capable, as if your worth is accidental. They'll praise your growth while hinting it won't last. They'll applaud your composure while planting doubt about its depth. These aren't praises, they are subtle traps. The moment you take the bait, they regain ground. You'll start explaining effort, proving resilience, defending choices. That spiral drains energy, divides focus, and feeds their illusion of control over you. They do this because quiet manipulation feels safer than direct war, than direct confrontation. If they spoke an open insult, you could dismiss it easily, but a disguised compliment slips through unnoticed. It looks like praise, but it carries a wound inside. Psychology calls this a double bind. It traps you between gratitude and suspicion. If you respond with anger, they say you're too sensitive. If you stay silent, they assume you accepted the jab. That is the brilliance of the snare. It makes you wrong no matter what move you choose. But once you see the design, their grip vanishes. You realize the trick is refusing to step in, because the loop collapses if you never enter. In relationships, these subtle insults are poison seeds. They leave you second guessing, doubting if your reaction is justified. You look sharp today, better than usual. I didn't think you could pull that off. You're confident, maybe too much. These are not compliments, they are hooks. They want you restless, chasing their validation, explaining your worth again and again. The danger isn't the words, but the endless cycle they spark. The more you defend, the more they own your voice. Guarding yourself means breaking the loop, refusing to explain, letting their words rot without reply. At work, this tactic hides inside false praise. You did fine on this task though, maybe. You can handle the next. You're useful, but only in this role. You're skilled, but still rough. Each line sounds like recognition, but comes with chains. The aim is to keep you doubting your place, working twice as hard to prove it. That loop feeds them. They drain your effort, but never give full respect. The escape is clarity. Stop playing inside their frame. Judge your value by what you deliver, not their twisted approval. The moment you stop justifying, their power fades. Psychology explains why it cuts so deep. Humans crave acknowledgement, so even poisoned praise grabs attention. Your mind clings to the insult more than the flattery, pulling you into defense. That defense is the bait. It hands them control of your story, but awareness rewrites the rules. Once you see the snare, you can laugh, ignore, or flip it back. Without your reaction, their words die empty. They learn their power was only illusion. In love, these disguised compliments cut sharper. They praise you in private, but shame you in public. They admire your strength, but warn of arrogance. They say they love your drive, but suggest it scares people. The rhythm is always the same, approval wrapped in doubt. It keeps you proving loyalty, humility, worth. But real love is not defense, it is respect. When you leave the loop, you expose the imbalance. If they cannot speak plain respect without venom, they are not lovers. They are wardens hiding. As partners, your refusal to explain is what shakes them, because explanation is energy, and energy is dominance. Once you stop wasting words on defense, you reserve strength for growth, for vision, for choices that shape your future. They feed on your spirals because it proves their hold. When you deny them, they confront the truth. They hold no place in your life. Silence cuts deeper than any reply, because it starves them of what they hunger for most, your attention. The loop is built on ego. Ego craves to prove, to argue, to explain. But when you master ego, you break the loop. You stop proving wisdom to those blind to it. You stop defending victories to those who would never honor them. You stop justifying your path to those who profit from your hesitation. That discipline feels cold to them, but for you, it is release. They can throw bait endlessly, but you remain solid, and solid is what they can't fight. Every sly compliment is a rope thrown at your feet. They want you to pick it up and bind yourself with it. They want you trapped in explanation, forgetting you never owed it. The irony is sharp. Once you see the loop, you never enter it again. You stop stepping into traps designed to drain you. You rise above the bait. From that height, their tricks look petty, shallow, and weak, and nothing shakes them more than knowing their words no longer sway you. If they can't predict your reaction, they can't predict their worth in your world. That is the secret most manipulators conceal. They thrive not on strength, but on patterns. They watch how you respond, where you bend when you lash out, and which words hook you to defend. Every repeated reaction becomes their map, a plan they exploit. When you refuse to answer the same way twice, when you trade silence for laughter, stillness for decisive words, patience for firm action, their map burns in their hands. Suddenly, they lose their footing with you. Without that certainty, their grip dissolves, and when control dissolves, so does their importance. They crave assurance, not assurance of your love, but proof that they can still move you. Even anger feeds their pride. Rage feels like worth. Defensiveness feels like power. Spirals prove their hold. You erase all of it the moment you become unreadable. You stop marching to their rhythm. You set your own. They come with the same tactics, and you answer with unpredictability. Sometimes laughter where they wanted a shout. Sometimes quiet where they begged for defense. Sometimes indifference where they hungered for chaos. Each change confuses them, leaves them shaken. Because the more they miss, the less they know their place in your life. In love, this unpredictability redefines control. Toxic partners build their grip by knowing which buttons break you. They know how to spark guilt, ignite jealousy, or stir rage. But when those buttons no longer work, fear sets in. They realize you are beyond programming. You've cut their hands away from your controls. And when that moment comes, the core of their power dissolves. They don't just lose control, they lose the mask itself. Because if they cannot read you, they cannot depend on you to uphold the lies they crafted about who they are. Your unpredictability forces them to confront the hollow space within, and hollowness terrifies them more than anything else. The same applies in social and professional grounds. Enemies, rivals, and even supposed friends watch how you move under pressure. They expect familiar reactions again and again, because predictability makes you simple to trap, but you carved another way. You refused to hand them patterns they could use. Your flexibility became your blade. One day you lean in, the next you walk away. One day you reply with calm, the next you leave them without a word.